I'm ready whenever you are. Good morning and welcome to our One World Spiritual Center online gathering. I am so glad you're here on this beautiful March 27th. We are winding up our month of March, our celebration of all things feminine, the divine feminine, Women's History Month. Thank you so much for being here. So today we are turning our gaze to the east and we are looking at Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of compassion. And I got to tell you, as I was preparing this talk, I just fell in love with Kuan Yin. I was so taken with her many faces, her many names, the many ways that she presents in our world. So during our talk today, and as we talk about it later on in the week, ask yourself, where has Kuan Yin touched you in your life? So we're going to have that, and I hope you enjoy it. We're going to have some prayer time when we hold ourselves, our community, and our greater world in prayer and reflection. We are going to find out what our kids are doing. They are continuing their exploration of spiritual strength. And Reverend Rebecca Johnson, our youth director, has sent me what they are going to be talking about this week, and I'm going to share that with you. We're going to share some announcements, find out what's coming up with One World, and immediately following our gathering, as this is the fourth Sunday of the month, we are going to have our community meeting, or what used to be called our hug meeting, Help Us Grow community meeting. It's still called our hug meeting. Everyone still calls it that. But anyway, that's what we're having immediately following our gathering on Zoom. So thank you again so much for being here. So as we get started, let's just take a minute and bring our attention to this moment and this place. Our lives get so busy. Sometimes we just, if you're like me, you spend so much time just kind of zooming around. And I'm not talking about Zoom, I'm talking about just kind of ricocheting from one thing to the next. And we don't sit and simply be in and treasure the immediate moment in which we find ourselves, which is where our life is lived. So let's take a moment and just take a breath and bring your awareness to this present moment, to this online gathering, to the energy of every other soul watching or listening here, because we are beloved community, whether we are in the same space or not. Our energies are joined together right now. So take a breath and just be willing to be here, to be in this gathering, to be in this place with gratitude and openness and curiosity about what we will learn, what will awaken, the awarenesses we will encounter as we sit together in the next few minutes. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to light this candle behind me. As we summon in the light of spirit to our gathering. May the lighting of this candle symbolize the kindling of love and care and respect that are the fundamentals of community and the true refuge for peace. So I'm talking about Kuan Yin today, who is the feminine embodiment of the Buddha. I don't have a Kuan Yin statue. Actually, I have a very small Kuan Yin statue, but it really would not work for a background. So the statue behind me is our One World Buddha statue. So I hope you enjoy seeing it. We've seen it so many times in person. So my opening prayer today, again in the Buddhist tradition, is from the Sutta Nipata, which is a Buddhist scripture. I invite you to listen. Let all beings be happy, weak or strong, of high, middle, or low estate, great or small, visible or invisible, near or far away, alive or still to be born. May they all be perfectly happy. Let nobody lie to anybody or despise any single being anywhere. May nobody wish harm to any single creature out of anger or hatred. Let us cherish all creatures as a mother her only child. May our loving thoughts fill the whole world, above, below, across, without limit. Our love will know no obstacles, a boundless goodwill toward the whole world, unrestricted, free of hatred or enmity. Whether we are standing or walking, sitting or lying down, as long as we are awake, we should cultivate this love in our heart. This is the noblest way of living. So that prayer is a good preface to our talk today on Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion. So the way our service is going to unfold today is I'm about to give some comments on Kuan Yin. I hope you enjoy them, and then we're going to, move into our prayer and our kids. The only person you're going to be seeing today is me, because I'm doing the announcements as well. So I hope that is okay. Next week, we're going to have a little more variety, but I hope you enjoy our gathering today. So let's talk about Kuan Yin. She is known as the Bodhisattva of compassion, also called she who hears the cries of the world. So what is a bodhisattva? We've all heard that word. When we hear it, we think of Gautama Buddha, who received his enlightenment at the foot of the Bodhi tree after he sat and refused to wake up. There's an image of Kuan Yin. Great, thank you, Michael. And refused to arise until he awoke. He then had a choice to continue on to nirvana or bliss, or to remain and work to alleviate suffering in this world. He chose to remaining on this earth plane for 45 more years, alleviating suffering wherever he found it. It was funny because the story goes that when he indicated his intention to remain and follow the bodhisattva path, there were those who said, nobody will understand what you do. Nobody will be able to appreciate and understand and reach the awakening you have reached. And he said, there will be those who listen. There will be those who see, no matter how few. He just stayed to alleviate the suffering even of the few. He stayed and took the bodhisattva path. Okay, so that's what we think of when we think of the Buddha. We think of bodhisattvas. We think of them in a different category. However, in the Mahayana tradition, a bodhisattva is any person who dedicates themselves to a path of becoming a Buddha. There may be bodhisattvas listening to this talk. The world may be filled with many bodhisattvas, some just beginning on the path, and some who have followed the path through many lives and are more advanced down the path. They are people who have committed themselves to develop and live by the virtues known as the four illimitables: loving kindness or metta, compassion or karuna, empathetic joy or mudita, and equanimity or upekkha. Now, empathetic joy, you may ask yourself, what is mudita? That is, it's joy in being alive, yes, for sure, but it's also joy at the joy others take. It's being filled with joy simply to see others joyful and peaceful and well. That is mudita. By this path, these bodhisattvas dedicate themselves to awakening, and by doing so, to alleviating the suffering in our world. So back to Kuan Yin. She is known as a celestial bodhisattva, one who is believed to have supernatural powers due to her great wisdom, her compassion, and her suffering. She has ascended by her life, by her heart. She has ascended to that exalted place because of her own journey, the suffering that opened her heart to the suffering of the world. It was not just her suffering. Suffering alone is a terrible thing, but it does not do it. It is the awakening she permitted in herself that her suffering brought about. We'll talk about that some more. Kuan Yin is venerated throughout the world, and her story takes a different shape in each place. She goes by many names. Whenever we find mercy, wherever we find mercy and comfort and compassion and strength and healing, the touch of Kuan Yin is there. So the story I shared today comes largely from China, where she is revered as the goddess of mercy. The image of Kuan Yin as a female deity arose in the 12th century, and it evolved from her earlier incarnation as the male bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. He was an Indian bodhisattva who refused nirvana so that he could stay and help alleviate suffering in this world, as did Gautama, the one we know as the Buddha. So there's a similar story about Kuan Yin. She achieved enlightenment, she traveled toward nirvana, and she was standing at the gates of bliss, about to enter, when she heard a single cry of pain from this earth. She turned back to alleviate the suffering here. Another interesting thing about Kuan Yin is she is believed to be the first acknowledged female Buddha, meaning a bodhisattva who has achieved enlightenment. So let's talk a little bit about Kuan Yin. Who is she? I'm going to tell you one story of the origin of Kuan Yin. There are others, but this one is well known and it's often given. The place I got this, the resource that I used primarily for this talk, was Stephen Levine's excellent book, Becoming Kuan Yin. I highly recommend that book. Let me say it again. Stephen Levine's book, Becoming Kuan Yin. It's an excellent, evocative, mystic book, and I recommend it to you. So according to the story, she was born Miao Shan, the daughter of a very cruel and despotic Chinese prince in the Miao province. Early on, she displayed her kind and gentle nature. She loved animals, she loved nature, she cared for trees, people, plants, all living things. She was just the embodiment of a gentle, heart-based soul. She spent long periods in the forest, reaching out with her heart to the trees, the animals, the birds, snakes, speaking to them and hearing them. She believed that all living things had a voice. There's a story that one day she watched a large koi come out of the pond, and from it, she heard it say the word remember from this large koi. All of life around her was infused with joy and light and a sense of the sacred. You can just, as I sit here, I can just imagine the energy coming from this young girl. She hand-fed the animals, the wild animals that came up to her, including fearsome ones like tigers, wild boars, snakes. Later on, after she became Kuan Yin, it was said that she would come to people as animals in their dreams. Again, fearful animals, boars and tigers and lions and snakes. She came as a fearful creature, it is said, to teach them to transform what is at least at first fear into acceptance and love. She came as a fearful form, but taught them really that that form deserved love and kindness and acceptance. And in that way, opened it up in themselves for whatever in themselves they had come to fear. So as she grew, Miao Shan's father was infuriated because she refused to do what she was supposed to do, which was marry and have sons. She was dedicated to the life of the renunciant. She wanted to give up worldly things to follow her own Tao, her own calling, her own dedication to the liberation of all beings. So, in order to force her to comply, he sent her to a nearby convent, telling the nuns to make her life absolutely miserable so that she would decide to come home to the pleasures of the palace and she would do what she was supposed to do. Realizing their own lives and the safety of their convent depended on obeying this man, they worked to make her life a living hell. She lived in abject deprivation. She slept in a windowless, freezing cement room with no bed other than the stone floor. She mucked out stables. She scoured bathrooms. She cleaned up the kitchens. Whatever work needed to be done, the lowliest work, she did without complaining. None of it resulted in her returning to the palace. She remained loving, accepting. She became more open. Her heart continued to open, more joyful. Instead of returning to the palace, she declared that she wanted to remain at the convent forever, living under those conditions, living among those whose life normally passed in hard, thankless work. She found her own heart opening in compassion. She found that her pain opened up into their pain, into what she came to understand was the one pain. So the nuns upped the game. They were getting scared, making her care for those other nuns who were sick, who were dying, who were abjectly ill. She was their nurse, their caretaker, their comforter. She cleaned up blood and vomit. She emptied and cleaned bedpans. Instead of being repulsed, which was their goal, she realized how privileged her own life had been. She realized that she could only be free from suffering if she, like Gautama, went deeper into her own consciousness, past the senses and the emotions, the physicality, the barriers of this physical plane, to find her connection to the One, to touch that deep river that runs in each of us, to find her connection to the beginning of all things. Her resistance fell away, and as it did, she found her heart opening in compassion to each person needing her care. She became supremely present to each person, realizing their differences, understanding them as individuals, listening to them each individually. She ultimately became so joined with each one that she began to sing and chant to them. Her heart would tell her which sutra to sing, which sutra to chant for each dying nun, taking their hands, breathing with them, feeling with them, leading them by the hand to the other side. Where there had been fear and pain, there was now bliss and light by her energy that she brought into that space. She took the Bodhisattva vow. For as long as space endures and for as long as living beings remain, until then may I too abide to dispel the misery of the world. Her father was not moved, he remained incensed, and he ultimately determined that the only way out of this was to have her executed, literally. So he tried to have her executed, but nothing worked. This is the way Levine puts it in his book. Something in Miao Shan's resolution to her cause radiated from her body, causing the executioner to fail, blunted the axe, broke the sword, snapped the spear, and finally turned the garrote around her neck into a garland. So the father had to execute somebody, so he decided he was going to execute the executioner. Miao Shan, realizing the executioner was about to suffer for her actions, she dropped her body. She just walked into seeming death. And in so doing, she took on the karmic debt of the executioner and also of her father, so that neither would have to suffer. Her father was a cruel and terrible man. The executioner had killed many, and so the karmic load that she took upon herself was huge. It sent her into hell. The story goes on with her sojourn in hell, where she saw what all those tortured souls there had done to themselves through greed, through violence, anger, jealousy, and hatred. Into hell, she brought her same energy. She brought forgiveness, even of oneself, mercy, and healing. To the tortured souls there who could find no comfort, she brought this message. You could look the whole world over and never find anyone more deserving of love than yourself. Let me say that again. You could look the whole world over and never find anyone more deserving of love than yourself. What a thought. Levine wrote that they wept and could not stop. It was here in the darkness and the pain of hell that Miao Shan brought healing, compassion, and light, and it was there that she became Kuan Yin. The Lord of Hell, Yama, became concerned at the havoc she was wreaking in his domain, so he banished her. Levine wrote, Kuan Yin had entered hell a vow taker and departed a bodhisattva, a spiritual hero whose primary practice is clear-minded, open-hearted service to all sentient beings, defining the total commitment of one's spiritual practice, not only to one's own liberation, but also to the freedom of all sentient beings in every form, on every plane. So today, the Mother of Mercy appears in many forms. She is known to appear in our dreams as an animal, a whisper, whatever forms speaks to the one who comes. Of all the different incarnations or iterations of the Buddha, it is Kuan Yin who takes on the most forms. Depictions of Kuan Yin show her with many arms, many eyes, many heads, showing how she reaches out to touch all the pain of the world. With her many eyes, she looks at each one of us directly and deeply. All those arms, there is one for everybody needing support and love. Statues of Kuan Yin also show her with two companions, one on each side. These represent her emissaries, of which there are many. So think about this. The mercy of Kuan Yin can appear in our lives in countless ways. The comforting arm of a friend, a passage, Stephen Levine writes, a passage in a book that falls open to a particular place, a bird or a butterfly passing near us that catches our notice and lifts us up. How many occasions have you had in your life where something just happens, one of those moments where your heart is down, and all of a sudden something happens, the phone rings, a friend calls, something beautiful happens that just lifts you up? There are so many ways the merciful and the loving energy of Kuan Yin touches us. In my own life, I spoke a while back of a very difficult time in my life when my son was in the hospital having a very complex surgery. I was staying there with him, and we actually didn't know how his surgery would turn out. It was a very dark time. So one morning I was sitting in his hospital room and I was reading the daily office from the Episcopal lectionary. And the psalm chosen for the day spoke of how I would be given a place to stand. I would be given a firm place to be. It was amazing. It was just what I needed to hear to give me strength and comfort at a time when I so sorely needed it. That is how Kuan Yin visits us, even though at the time her name didn't occur to me. It was just an amazing thing to be there in that dark place and sit and read something that gave me such strength. She appears in many forms and she takes many names. She teaches us forgiveness and compassion first toward ourselves. You'll remember the Bodhisattva's vow is to liberate all sentient beings. That includes you. That includes ourselves. She helps us open our hearts to our own pain, replacing fear with love and acceptance. Think about that. Think about in your own life, the times you have been hurt, the times you have been in pain. The first thing that happens, the emotion that arises is resistance. The emotion that arises is fear. What does this do? It hardens the place of our pain. It makes it more difficult to heal. First, we have the pain, and then we surround it with this wall of fear and pain and resistance. Kuan Yin shows us, she leads us and counsels us into sending love into the places of our pain, softening it, opening it to healing. It is love that heals. It is love that returns us to wholeness. Think about that in your own experience. Think about where you've been taught that in other places. Isn't that what Myrtle Fillmore did when she was thought to be dying of tuberculosis? And she said, no, I do not inherit illness. And she sat and she apologized to every cell in her body for thinking it less than whole. She sent love and energy and healing to each cell in her body and lived many, many more years. Kuan Yin teaches us to love ourselves as we are, to forgive ourselves, to release that image of perfection, to know that we are beloved just as we are. Just imagine what that energy would do for you in your life, to imagine that and to know in a deep way that you are beloved just as you are. There is much more to say about this loving energy, Kuan Yin, this Mother of Mercy. We're going to talk about Kuan Yin that's coming up Wednesday in our community circles, how she's appeared in our lives, and the wisdom that we can take from her. For now, I'd like to close with this reading, again from Stephen Levine from his book, Becoming Kuan Yin, on the Mother of Mercy. So I invite you to listen. The Mother of Mercy prays to free us from our image of the perfection to which so much suffering clings. When in the shadowy mind we imagine ourselves imperfectly praying to be freed by enlightenment, she refines our prayers. putting her arms around us. She bids us put our head on her shoulder, whispering, "Don't you know, with all your fear and anger, all you are fit for is love. May all beings be free of suffering. May all beings be at peace." And so it is. So thank you for listening. And I invite you to join us on Wednesday to talk more and learn more about Kuan Yin, the Mother of Mercy, the Bodhisattva of Compassion. So now what I'd like to do is move into our prayer time. And this is our opportunity that we have every week to hold ourselves in prayer, to hold our beloved in prayer, our community, and our greater world. So let's just take a minute and take a breath and move your awareness down from your busy mind, your zooming mind, down to your heart space, and simply breathe. Let's take this moment to simply breathe and smile and be in this moment, feeling your heart open, feeling it soften, feeling it radiate that energy that binds all of us into the one. We sit with gratitude and love and openness. Mother of Mercy, we are grateful for your many gifts. We are grateful for the mercy and the forgiveness and the healing that you bring. If only we can be aware of your presence. Open our eyes, open our hearts to find you in all places. We are willing and we are grateful, and so it is. So we do have some prayer requests today. Our own Linda Stewart-Jones has told me that she is releasing her beloved Ivy, her little poodle, to cross the Rainbow Bridge this afternoon. Ivy has not been well, and it is really time to let her go. So we hold Linda and we hold Ivy in our hearts, and we send them light and love and energy. So let's just take a moment. Sweet Spirit, we hold Linda and Ivy in our hearts. May they be comforted. May they be at peace. We bless Ivy in her ongoing journey, and we thank her for the love and the friendship, all the gifts that she has brought to our beloved Linda. We send Linda strength and love, knowing that she is not alone as she goes through this painful journey. May she be strong, comforted, and at peace. And so it is. We also have a prayer request from Bridget for her family in the UK and also her father, Desmond. And so we hold Bridget and Desmond and her entire family in our hearts. We send light and we send love to that beloved and to that entire family. And we widen the circle to include all those beloved we know and all those whom we don't know and whom we will never meet, all those in other parts of the world, unknown to us, but still brothers, still sisters. May all be well. May all be protected. We send especially loving energy and light to all in the Ukraine who are undergoing violence and war and displacement and fear. May there be peace in that region. May violence end. May hearts change. May peace be restored. And may each one of us do all that we can to help bring renewal and healing to our world, which is suffering so much. If any of you have a beloved on your heart, or a situation coming up, or a circumstance, let's just take a minute and sit in the silence for a moment while each one of us lets rest on our hearts the name of a beloved, a circumstance that is coming up, a challenge we face, whatever it is. Let's just hold it in our awareness, releasing it to the one power, to the universe. Sweet Spirit, we know that every name is heard. We know that every challenge is acknowledged. We are grateful for the healing to come. We are grateful for the renewal and the strength that is always ours. We know that we do not walk alone. We know that our beloved are uplifted and that they rest in the arms of the Mother of Mercy, in the arms of Spirit. Thank you for the many gifts that shower upon us. Thank you for the healing to come. And so it is. And together we say, Amen. So thank you for joining with us in those prayers. So right now in our gathering, this is our opportunity just to take a deep breath and to offer our gifts and our tithes and our donations in support of One World. And I want to say, as I do every week, or I guess Tim has been saying it, but he's just as grateful as I am, we are so very grateful for your support, for your continuing donations, for your continuing help to keep us going as we bring you this Sunday gathering, as we bring you our in-person gatherings, our Wednesday night, our morning meditation, our kids program, whatever it is purely your generosity that keeps our organization flourishing. And we are so grateful. Thank you so much. We bless these tithes and we dedicate them to the continued work of One World. If you are looking for ways to donate, you can go to our website. There is up at the very top, there's a tab that says Giving. You can click it. It takes you to a donate page, and you have the option to send us a check or to donate by PayPal or to use our church app, which is Tithely, whatever works for you. We so appreciate them, and we bless these gifts, and we dedicate them to our ongoing work. Thank you so much. So I said at the beginning of our gathering that I was going to tell you a little bit about what the kids are doing. Every Sunday at 10:30, our youth director, Reverend Rebecca Johnson, gets on the Zoom, a different Zoom account, with our kids, and they just talk. They just share. They have their own sangha, their own community that they connect with every week, and it lifts them up. It gives them guidance. It gives them support. It is a wonderful, it's just a wonderful thing that Reverend Rebecca does, and that each one of our kids does as they bring their own wisdom and love and creativity to the group. So in March, they're talking about spiritual strength, and I'm going to read to you what Reverend Rebecca sent me about what they're talking about this week. How is calmness spiritual strength? It helps you navigate the complicated waters of our modern world by enforcing a strong sense of self, to develop your spiritual abilities as a calm superhero. I love that. Focus on a daily meditation, mind treatments, and a self-care routine to ensure you take time each day to find stillness, to tune in to your inner guidance. Okay, I cannot even imagine how my life would have been better. Okay, lots better if somebody had told me that when I was 10 years old, to sit in the stillness and tune in to my inner guidance, to uncover my spiritual abilities, to learn to be a calm superhero. Many thanks to Reverend Rebecca for the wisdom, the creativity, the insight, and the joy that she brings to our kids' programs. So let's take a minute and bless our kids. Together, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divine in each and every one of you, because we do. So I'm going to give you some announcements. There's quite a few, so just stick with me. The first one is our community meeting is immediately following our gathering. We do have some fun news and updates, so please join us. Let us know if you need the Zoom link. You can call 678-214-6938 or email us at info@oneworldspiritualcenter.net and we will send you the Zoom link. It's the same link we use for Wednesdays and for morning meditations, so if you can access those, jump on that same link. We are still planning our Easter brunch for April 17th. Many thanks to Linda Wendt, who is helping us with that. You are a blessing. We do need to know how many folks are planning to attend because we want to get the right amount of food. So please, if you are planning to attend our Easter brunch at 11 o'clock on April 17th, please let me know. You can tell me during our community meeting, you can email me, whatever. You can tell me on Wednesday, it doesn't much matter. Just let us know, please. Our speaker next week is Reverend Mary Lou Palmer. Glad to have her back, who's going to be speaking on renewal and transformation, wonderful topics as we approach Easter. On April 10th, we are having our hybrid in-person service. That's going to be at Mosaic Films. The address is in our newsletter. And our speaker for that is Kamal Caruso. We have not seen Kamal for a while, and I am so thrilled to have him back. He's going to be speaking on Ramadan, which this year begins on April 1st and it continues through May 1st. He's going to be teaching us and speaking on the spiritual gifts of Ramadan. So please join us for that. Again, on April 17th, we're going to be having our in-person service. So next month, April, we're having 2 in-person services on the 10th and on the 17th, both at Mosaic Films. On April 23rd, this is another very cool thing, in collaboration with Zeitgeist, an organization downtown, we are offering a 3-hour Zoom workshop with Rabbi Mitch Cohen on the Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas is one of the Gnostic Gospels, you can think of it that way, that was discovered in 1945 at Nag Hammadi. It is the secret sayings of Jesus. They are mystical sayings. They draw us deeper in. It is going to be a fabulous workshop at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 to noon on April 23rd. So please join us for that. Last week, I did a podcast interview with Mitch and with Debony Morgan, who's the executive director of Zeitgeist, talking a little bit about One World and also about this upcoming workshop. And I'll post that podcast as soon as Debony releases it. It was way fun to do. We also have our regular events, our morning meditation, our Wednesday discussion group coming up. So please, those are both Zoom events. Join us for those. So again, thank you so much for joining us on our Sunday gathering. And I'd like to close with a vow given us by Kuan Yin, as legend goes. The legend is that when she attained her enlightenment, she said, "Before the Buddha are the bodhisattvas and the vow takers who commit themselves through this life and those that might come to act for the benefit of all sentient beings, taking the bodhisattva vow. I will give you now the vow as presently generated in me by all the compassionate Buddhas." And this is a translation of the vow that she gave us. "Have mercy on all sentient beings. Keep their well-being at heart. Take every opportunity to find benefit for others. Beings warm-blooded and cold are numberless. I vow to aid them. Illusions of separateness are innumerable. I vow to awaken with them. As long as there is suffering, I commit to protect with mercy and awareness those who cannot yet see or be seen, to enlighten myself for the benefit of all sentient beings, to better hear the cries of the unheard, to better see the work to be done. In the open heart and clear mind, for as long as suffering endures, may I abide to dispel the delusion and misery of the world. May I abide to dispel the delusion and misery of the world. And so it is. So our gathering is concluded. Many blessings, and thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you during the week. I also hope to see you on our Zoom immediately following for our community meeting. Many blessings, and thanks for joining us.